Hello, welcome to the Art Club. This week, the show comes to you from Osaka, the industrial heartland of Japan. It's where the Japanese make their money. In fact, so proud are the Osakans of their ability to generate the readies that when they greet you, they don't say hello, they say mukarimaka, which means, are you earning money? The Japanese are known for their ability to use foreign ideas. In fact, this has always been the secret of their success, absorbing external influences and turning them into something very Japanese. This is also true for their arts, and that is why the Art Club is in Osaka. On this week's show, we meet two of the artists who helped to shape the Japanese avant-garde for a generation. We look at Kansai Airport, which is 5 years old, and we ask, is it still one of the great wonders of the world? And we look at some of the contemporary art happening now around Osaka. In the West, we've tended to recognize Japanese artists for their traditional work like woodblock printing and calligraphy. But nowadays, more and more contemporary Japanese artists are becoming well known outside their own shores. And this is one of them. It's the work of the Osakan artist Yasumasa Morimura. This may look like the Mona Lisa, but in fact, it's one of Morimura's self-portraits, and it's on show at London's cutting-edge contemporary gallery, the White Cube. Morimura's work focuses on the idea of cross-dressing in different cultures throughout history. He takes photos of himself to assume the identity of some of the most famous figures in the world, changing their gender and montaging different body parts together. But Morimura did not come out of a vacuum. Japan has had a history of avant-garde artists, some of the most influential of whom were part of a group called the Gutai. It was a collection of artists from Osaka who became known just after the Second World War. As Japan was recovering from the Second World War, a small group of artists from Osaka were creating a new art. Rejecting all from the past, chasing headlong towards the new, they created a movement that was known as Gutai.
At first, everyone thought of us as weird, but even then, I always felt that I was doing something really wonderful.
The Gutai artists were an avant-garde art movement away from the Western influences. They endeavoured to create their own style of art based on Japanese tradition and culture. The group was dominated by Jiro Yoshihara, a wealthy businessman and artist who acted as a leader and a teacher to the younger members. He encouraged them to turn away from tradition and embark on creative activities.
Gutai's most notable point is that all the members were painters. However, under Jiro Yoshihara's direction, the artists started to express themselves through unconventional methods. For example, they used their bodies as a medium of expression. Yoshihara used to tell the members, don't copy the others, always try to look for original ways to express yourself.
The artists started to work with materials like newspaper, firing paint on their pictures with cannons, and painting with their feet. They felt that the artists had got in the way of their materials, and they wanted to allow the true nature of the material to speak for itself.
First,
I glued a canvas on the floor with papers around it to prevent paint spitting. The paint is dripped onto the canvas with a rope. Then I walk all over the canvas to smudge the paint. I started from the red paint and followed by black and finally blue. When I feel that the painting is finished, I come off the canvas and decide which side becomes the top part and the bottom part of the painting. To put it simply, the result is a painting produced only by pure chance.
The Loose Association of Artists became a formal group in 1954 named Gutai, or Concretism. The group pledged to show themselves in a direct and concrete fashion, and not to show their feelings in an indirect or abstract way. They strove to free themselves from the bounds of conventional art, introducing performance, music, and action into their work.
私たちが1947年に絵を始めた時は
When we started in 1947, Mondrian was regarded as one of the best artists. Then I thought, what is missing from his paintings? And I realized that much European art of that time lacked movement. They were static, no brush strokes or paint smudges. The reason my paintings were mistaken as violent is because I use powerful medium, like cannonballs. I had to use these objects purely because I am not powerful enough to create the same impact. It is not supposed to be taken as a violent act.
The movement formally ended in 1972 when Mr. Yoshihara died, but the members have kept on working, and they're now seen as the grand old masters of Japanese art. It's normal to have to jostle for space in Osaka. It's not surprising. It's a big modern economy built on a relatively small island. So inevitably, the need for air travel is growing. The trouble is, the amount of available space is shrinking. So, 5 years ago, the Japanese authorities came up with an ingenious, if not simple idea. They decided to build an airport in the sea. So we've been to take a look at how it's working. Five kilometers off the shore of Osaka, in the Osaka Bay, is Kansai International Airport. It's about to celebrate its 5th birthday as Japan's most important airport. But although it was built as a temple of commerce, it's also an object of great beauty. The runways never sleep, capable of over 400 flights a day. the planes are flying 24 hours a day.
Originally, this area, Kansai region, had the Itami International Airport at that time, but that airport is located in a highly dense area, so they suffered from the very severe noise pollution. So we'd like to have the pollution-free and also 24-hour operational new international hub airport. And the conclusion is just to have the airport site in the 5 kilometers offshore.
The 500-hectare island is completely man-made. It was reclaimed from the sea over a period of 3 years with hundreds of millions of tons of earth. The jewel at the centre of the airport is the main terminal building. It was designed by the Italian architect Renzo Piano and the British engineers O. Varup. It stretches over 1.5 kilometres long in one continuous flowing curve.
This building is 1.8 kilometres long. It's constructed in a most seismically active region of the world, and it's in an area where they have hurricanes, so inevitably the engineering takes quite a big profile in the design of this. This airport was designed on the basis of passenger flow being very clear. And we hung on to that theme for the engineering. So you'll find in the departure terminal, for example, these big trusses that span 85 metres or so are in the direction of flow of passengers.
The shape of the roof has been especially designed to allow the flow of air from the light blue air conditioning nozzles to pass under the roof and mix with the warm air, giving the roof its characteristic curved shape.
On
the 17th of January 1995, an earthquake measuring 7.2 on the Richter scale struck Kobe, a city next to Osaka. 4,000 people lost their lives. Although the airport was only 30 kilometres from the epicenter and some of the airport island did suffer damage, the main terminal building was unscathed.
The earthquake was about the level that the building is designed to receive without damage. That's a building standard law of Japan requires that. And even though that was all fairly carefully thought out, I really am quite proud of the fact that it worked.
Time for us to take a short break now, but after that, we'll be finding out about the modern-day art scene in Osaka, and we'll also be getting our regular weekly art news from around the world. Hello, welcome back to the Art Club. In a moment, we shall be taking a cultural tour around the contemporary art scene in Osaka in Japan. But first of all, let's get our weekly roundup of art news. After a long and complex history, the Reichstag was reborn in glittering style this week as the seat of Germany's parliament. The dome will house the German government when it moves from Bonn this summer. It was designed by the British architect Sir Norman Foster, who won the commission through an international competition in 1992. Since the Berlin Wall came down 10 years ago, the city has been massively rebuilt, and it looks like Sir Norman Foster's Reichstag will be the architectural icing on the cake. The Three Tenors played to over 35,000 people in South Africa this week. José Carreras, Placido Domingo and Luciano Pavarotti performed both solo and jointly, backed by the National Symphony Orchestra. Their concert was a send-off for President Nelson Mandela, who retires from office in June, and it was also a celebration of the first 5 years of democracy in South Africa. This year's annual Rainforest concert, hosted by the pop singer Sting, has attracted its usual host of stars, such as Sir Elton John and James Taylor, both of whom performed their favourite Frank Sinatra songs. Other celebrities who supported the effort to save the rainforest were Tony Bennett, Sandra Bernhardt, Billy Joel and Ricky Martin. At $2,000 a ticket, the money raised will go to the Foundation's projects in South America, Asia and Africa. You'd think that in Osaka, people only had time for two things: making money and eating. So does that mean there's no time for aesthetics? Not so. Let's hit the expressways of Osaka now to find out more in our cultural tourist. Osaka is now Japan's third largest city, but very little of it is actually old. Most of Osaka was bombed flat in the Second World War by American planes, and the landscape has been completely reconstructed in the last 50 years. Within this myriad collection of buildings, some beautiful pieces of architecture have been built. In the district of Ikuno-ku, a dazzling new artist studio space has been built by local architect Kenji Hashimoto. Designed over 4 years in collaboration with the artists, he's created a large modern studio, which is very rare in Japan because of the shortage of affordable land. The studio is used by a husband and wife team, Tomoaki Ishihara and Chi Matsui. They work individually as artists, but they sometimes collaborate on projects like this tapestry. Tomoaki Ishihara's art is constantly changing, but certain ideas permeate all of his work. Having started as a professional photographer, he's always been interested in how we perceive things.
I'm interested in how people understand the world and how I recognize the world. Because art is the thing to see. I'm interested in self-portrait because usually people take photographies standing behind the camera. And I want to stand in front of camera. And at the same time, I want to stand behind the camera. So the both two of me is divided by the camera viewpoint.
I had been grown up reading Western and Eastern in Japan. And those types of story remain still now. My identity has been already crushed and separated. I accept that situation, and I will try to make new art using the psychological disease. That's my work.
Fujio Matsuo uses a traditional Japanese wooden house as her studio. She's been painting the same image for the last 10 years, the light that falls from the shadow of a window.
ロスコの絵にあった時に、
I like to paint windows to depict light. When I saw Mark Rothko's painting one day, I was so taken by it, and I couldn't move from where I was standing. I never encountered such an emotion from just looking at a painting. This experience made me want to paint, and I will be happy if someone could have the same experience from my paintings.
In Japan, Buto is an avant-garde form of dance which was born in the 1960s and which has been performed in theatres all over the country. Now, within the confines of the theatre, it's one thing, but if you take it out of the theatre and put it in the temple, it becomes quite outrageous. The Japanese artist, Mayumi Hamada, takes her art to its limit by doing it in the Buddhist Senkoji temple. She says that she likes to take her performance to the edge in her search for a passionate fanaticism. That's it from the Art Club this week in Osaka in Japan. Next week we shall be staying in Asia. We'll be heading to Hong Kong. Hope to see you there. Bye-bye.